Is it more advantageous if one goes to music school? And was it easy for you to break through or explore Western music being an Indian?
Oh, very good question again. So it absolutely makes sense to go to music school if you are determined that music is what I want to get my technical expertise in. Um, Music doesn't pay very much as a profession. So you have to be careful about that choice, is what I would say. But if you are 18 years old and you can afford to go to a music school, and when I say afford means because there's a cost aspect to the actual going to school, but there's also if you go to a traditional profession, perhaps the salaries that you're going to get and the money you're going to get is going to be, let's say, a little more bankable, more reliable, right? You have this slight unreliability for sure when you're taking a chance with music. That's what I meant by afford. So there are two aspects. One is the cost, and one is the payback from it is a little unsure. But if you are determined to do music and you want to, I think, get technical expertise in it, then absolutely. However, if you are unsure of that, that's what you want to do, and you want to build a technical expertise around something else, which is can maybe allow you a more assured way of making a living and continue your music on the side, I would say do that every day of the week right now, because if you're determined to be a musician, you can learn so much on YouTube today. You couldn't even do that 10, 15 years ago. Now, there's so much amazing wealth of knowledge that you can just pick up if you're determined and keen. And it does, that degree is not going to guarantee you any money, but a degree somewhere else will guarantee you some real earnings, and you can pursue your music on the side and be as good as you can be in music just on the side. You don't have to spend your entire college education dedicated to music in that instance. But if you are absolutely determined and you can afford it, go to music school. Absolutely. Why not? So so every answer, I think, in this case, depends on your personal circumstances. It's not a one size fits all, right? Everyone has got different financial obligations. They come from a different place. They've got personal aspirations which are different, and the drive to create or to be a banker or to be a lawyer is different. So everyone's got to weigh that up. It comes back to the honesty question, right? Try and really think about what you want to do and what's right for you, right? I'm happy to talk to a lot of you individually as well, but I think at the end of the day, it's about an individual choice, which is much more complex than getting someone to tell you what to do. And you said something else, which is being an Indian person making music in English. Very good question. And it's very hard, I would say. It still is. It's very hard because people who are, I mean, I can't tell you how many times people have told me, do Bollywood songs, right? And because that's the way to as an Indian person. I'm talking about people in the West have told me that, people in India have told me that. So it's a very common kind of piece of advice that I get. And I have not ignored it, but my view is I'm doing this from an artistic perspective. I want to make music that I want to make. But I think if you had to ask me, would I be more successful as an artist if I did Hindi songs only and some English, basically, but switched it around. Right now, I do English songs with a few Hindi. But if I switched it around completely, did Bollywood covers all the time, etc., would it make my let's say following increase? I think it would. But I wouldn't feel true to what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create original music first. And for me, original music means whatever's coming through me, and if sometimes it could be Hindi, sometimes it could be English. And I want to be honest and treat that with fairness.
How do you recommend one tells a story through his or her voice and improve his or her vocal power?
Um, I think, when you listen to a song, you will find, and this goes for almost everybody, right? You don't have to be a music critic. You will find that there is, especially in the vocal section, if you're listening, and to be fair, the vocals need to be recorded well, right? If the voice is recorded well, if it's recorded in a poor manner, you might not get the richness and the clarity sometimes. But if it's recorded well, you can absolutely tell if something feels sincere. Sometimes it's just three words, and it just hits you and you get a little bit of a goosebump, right? In some way, something touches your heart and you're like, oh my God, that's real, right? Something, it might not even be real actually, but it's a way of delivery often that, and a lot of singers just have that quality. So I was given my best compliment that I received from my UK producers, who, by the way, they produce Radiohead and Oasis, and some of these bands are a little older than you guys. So you might not have heard of them, but they're big bands, massive, massive bands. And his biggest compliment to me, because I asked him a very hard question. I said, why are you working with me? You're the drummer of Radiohead. And I'm this guy who's an Indian person who has been a banker. And now I'm kind of, doing these songs. Why are you working with me? I mean, just as a curiosity, I'm so happy you are. And he said, listen, I heard your songs and you sounded authentic. You sounded authentic. And that to me, because he's an artist himself, right? He's a drummer, but he's an artist. He's like, so he heard artist to artist wise that this person is singing something genuinely from their heart. And, once you have that, you feel, or you're able to communicate that, then I think it's you just know it. You can just hear it in someone's voice. It's just a fragment of it, and then it's hard to explain, but you all can hear it. What was the second part? Did you have two parts to that?
How can one tell a story and improve his or her vocal power?
Okay, wow. So I've done some songwriting courses, or given some songwriting classes in Singapore at the university level here. It's a, how can you improve your writing skills? How can you improve your vocal power? Vocal power is, I think, really about practice and breathing. Really, right? So in the Hindustani classical tradition, you've got riyaz, right? And or the phrase riyaz, and basically it's about practice. Breath, understanding your voice, warming your voice, and rigorously practicing little bits of movements so that you can really get it perfect the way you want it to sound. So vocal power, I would say that. But for lyric writing and for songwriting, I would say really that, the best thing I would advise in a nutshell answer, because that requires like almost a session on its own to discuss and go through. But really, it's about imagery, emotion, and connection, right? So usually the verse of a song will be about a setting. It's really like the introduction of an essay. Okay, it's putting you in a position of understanding what's going on. You're walking, I was walking in my backyard, or I was, even mowing your lawn, whatever it is, it kind of sets you in a certain frame. So you understand the frame. But when you get to the chorus, okay, that's all emotion. It's like, I'm singing out for joy and I'm, waiting for the rain to fall, and it's all imagery, right? It's waiting for the rain to fall. You're already thinking of someone looking up at the sky. So it's about finding great imagery, finding great emotion in the chorus, finding a great backdrop in your verse, and about, emotionally connecting then. And there's a lot of other tricks to songwriting, or not even tricks. They really kind of approach, which I can talk about. We can have a separate chat about that.
What would you consider to be your greatest achievement?
I think one of the greatest achievements I think might be actually me finding my wife, my life partner. I know it's a slightly unusual answer, but I really think that was maybe, I'm not sure I can take credit for that actually. It's not my achievement entirely, but it's my fortune, I guess, to find the right person who will support me through life's very crazy journey, right? So I think that's because it's helped me build my family. It's helped me, raise two children, which are my pride and joy. And she has supported me, my wife Sneha has supported me through this massive transition, which is not an easy thing to do. So I would say that is probably one of my biggest accomplishments in that sense of just, finding the right person and finding the right balance, because it's not that I've just gone on, soldiered on with my music and just gone to a different continent or lived in Boston. I've made compromises as well, but I think maybe the accomplishment is also holding us together and holding myself together. Again, that's for me, that's a personal answer, because it's really about keeping my own balance intact, because that was very important for me as I made all these big choices.
Thank you. So the final question before we take the questions from the chat is asked by the students of GEMS Modern Academy. Do you feel you did the right thing by first achieving something in your career and making enough money to pursue your passion? Or do you wish you had gone into the music industry before you started anything in your banking career?
Wow, another very good question. I would say no, I wouldn't have it any other way than the way it's turned out. So a lot of times people have asked me that, would you rather be 20 years old or, the same age as Ed Sheeran and, therefore be able to compete with something like that? But no, I don't think I would have liked that, because I'm not Ed Sheeran, right? I'm Druv Kent. And for me, it's more important to have lived the life that I have lived. And I'm very grateful for what I've seen and the beautiful things that have emerged out of my life. So I'm very, I think, thankful for that. And I'm very thankful to have found this next chapter, this next kind of aspect to it. Would it have been easier if I was younger? I don't know. I don't know if I'd have the same level of maturity. I would not probably have the same level of maturity. I would definitely, you wouldn't have the same level of responsibility, so you can take more risks. Absolutely true. I'd be, living out on couches of friends, etc., which is what I can't do right now. I can do it for 2 weeks, but then I got to come back because my kids need me, and the family needs to kind of keep going. So when you're 20, you can take risks which are very different. But I think, in a total sense, the kind of life that I've been able to lead has informed my choices. Those experiences have shaped and allowed me to write about things that I've seen in my own life. And when I was 20, I didn't have those experiences, maybe, because it didn't come to me at that time, right? So it's come to me later in life, and maybe it's because of those experiences that need to be expressed that I became a musician. So I look at it a little more philosophically.
So we'll now be opening questions from the floor. So the first question from the chat, what advice do you have for people confused about their career decisions? It's a question from GEMS New Millennium School.
Okay, well, mistakes are fine, right? You can make the wrong decision at the moment, right? You can. And don't overly sweat the fact that you might make a wrong decision. Plenty of people have made wrong decisions, and plenty of people have survived that and actually thrived, because there's nothing like such a dramatic wrong decision, right? I mean, I would say that maybe they are. I mean, you could do something which is entirely foolish, but I don't think that, the community we're talking to, where you guys are all, smart people. You've got good friendship circles, you've got good mentorship within your community of adults who you can talk to, your parents, in the school. You can have these discussions, make thoughtful choices. But at the end of the day, don't be too afraid of taking chances also, right? If you take a few chances in life, that's how you kind of figure out what you don't like. It takes mistakes, and it takes, understanding up close what you don't like sometimes, and only then you realize that, okay, it's actually what I've been talking about it for 5 years. I really want to do this. I was wrong, right? So that's fine. It's nothing wrong with that. But by the way, the other thing is this: that sometimes, very often, you'll think you want to do something and you go in that direction, but very often it turns out you don't want to do exactly that, but you want to do something around that. So let me give you an example, right? So for instance, if I'm not doing banking, right, doesn't mean that it was a mistake. So what did I learn from banking? I learned that I can talk strategically about things, right? I enjoy that even now, right? So I understand the long-term game of certain kind of aspects, just like I was doing when I was a banker. I was giving strategic advice to very senior people about how their corporation should run. But now I'm doing it for myself. I'm able to kind of, be my own guide to some extent, and it's a very useful skill. And then earlier, I mean, when I was very young, I thought I could be a musician. I thought I could be a writer. When I was in college, I took some writing classes and I loved it. And I thought for a minute I could be a writer. In 2013, before I started music full time, I actually tried to write something. I thought I'll write a book. It was a disaster, okay? An absolute disaster. I was not made for writing a book, but I realized I'm made for writing something. I knew I had something, I had a way with words, and I had a way with language, and I understood some things about it. It turns out I'm a songwriter. My point is, you might think that you're very driven towards a certain goal, but your goal might just be one aspect of what you're doing, could draw from that and could inform how you shape your other things in life. So life will keep showing these things to you. Be open-minded, listen for those, connect them back with who you are, and you'll be surprised at how complete the palette of choices will become and how clear things will become over time.